My name's ChristianLangeder and I'm an equine soft tissue therapist. I specialise in treating muscular issues in performance horses. The idea? We're on. Oh, we're on here now. Now I've got to look over here. Anyway, hi, episode 4 of Langeder Equine podcast show TV thing. Anyway, this week I've been in Geelong. I've been in doing racehorses, polo horses. I've been in around Macedon Way doing dressage horses. My end of my week is always racing. I've done everyone from Chris Calthorpe, which is the first video as well. Greg Urell, Pat Carey, Shane Nichols, Wendy Kelly, Alex Ray. There are so many. Rhiannon Shipra. Lucky enough to treat Rick's Cafe again, which will be running soon. Benedetta, who runs today. Seb Song, I'm not sure when he runs. At Urell's we have Papillon Club, which is running today as well. So it's been a crazy week. My weeks are always crazy. I start at 5 o'clock in the morning, usually get home around 7 or 8 at night. So if people do, as I often say, don't send me videos and ask me about your horse, because really I'm completely jam-packed. I am fully booked. I cannot find any space barely to sleep or eat or anyway. So really busy week. It's been amazing. I guess that's the intro. Let's start with, this is Geelong Racecourse at Chris Calthorpe's stable. Right, we're at Geelong Racecourse, Chris Calthorpe Racing. This is Gunner. Just want to show you this muscle here. This is bicep. That's this muscle here on us. It's not separated from the chest like that, like us. Anyway, if you're looking around here, you think you got something in the front, you can either check the neck, this neck, lower neck is fine. Descending pec, main pec muscle here. There's one under here which is deep pec, that's fine, but on her is little muscle, so bicep. So obviously a problem. All that does is lifts the arm. Anyway, so if you think you're a bit stiff in front, I just want to show you all the different muscles, all the different bits that you can check. So, lower neck. I usually, whenever a horse is sore in the neck here, it's always in the sternum, it's always here. Then descending pec, deep pec, bicep. So, you can actually show the face too if you want. She's almost being cute. She's a bit of a terror, but she's a really cute horse anyway. So, there you go. So, before and after, check it a couple of times, bicep, and a crack. That was not the video I thought we were going to watch. Gunner, Chris Calthorpe stable in Geelong. Bicep is that one. Obviously, the whole thing that I'm trying to do is teach people how to check their own horse. This is my whole deal. This is exactly what I need. In the front of a horse, there are so many different areas. Obviously, I'm going to plug my website right now. My website is a diagnostic website. Go and check it out, langederequine.com, sorry. And there's a map of a horse. Well, when you sign in, it's cheap to sign in for a year or for a lifetime. When you sign in, you get a horse and there's all these points on it. They all have numbers. Those things are actually active. So if you already have that app, and what's changed recently is that now you can go to the horse and you can actually touch the numbers and it goes straight to modules. So those modules will tell you exactly what the muscle is, what your considerations are, etc. So anyway, there are so many different little muscles in the front. That particular one was bicep. I also mentioned inner neck. Whenever you saw in the outside of the neck, that big neck muscle, brachiocephalicus, it's never sore here. It's always sore just on the inside of the sternum. She's a cutie. The other thing that I notice when I video, we just do it off the cuff. Usually the person who owns the horse holds the camera, so it's always messy. I prefer it that way. However, it'd be really good if I could get rid of things like those leads that are straight across the muscle or across the face. So we're learning things in progress. Next, technical difficulties. Don't drive. Hi, we're at the National Equestrian Centre in Singapore. This is McGregor. Can I pause it for a sec? Oh, you're going to keep it running? Or no? So that's McGregor. Obviously not the fighter McGregor, but Singapore. I've been to Singapore several times working. They are amazing. They're so good to me. So, yeah, we're at Bukatima there. I don't think Bukatima exists anymore. I think it's all been taken over to the racecourse. And I think they're really trying to stop racing, which is unfortunate to stop any type of horse sport. But, you know, that's Singapore. Let's crack on. Oh.
I've muted it because the sound's bad. So you can commentate.
Right. Right, I'm doing a lot of pointing and all right. So what I'm talking about, I know back then, so I was with McGregor. A thing that was very common in Singapore while I watched this was the hyoid. I often talk about not being the pole. I should get t-shirts made saying it's not the pole. It's never the pole. There's a bone at the back of the tongue. It's like a wishbone at the back of the tongue, or it's a structure, a bone structure. And what it is a hyoid. It's what locates the tongue. There are muscles that go from that bone into the jaw. Often you'll see horses, either if you have a horse that's really weird with the bit, before you go out and buy a whole bunch of bits, check the hyoid. You can do that by checking my TikTok videos or having a look at my website. But what it is there are muscles from that bone that go into the jaw. In racing, I've said this plenty, but you know, in racing, if you see a horse trying to run straight, but it tilts its head one side, again, won't be the pole. It'll often be the hyoid on one side, the muscles from the tongue into the jaw, and they're trying to save themselves. So what they end up doing is they end up hanging, what we call hanging in or hanging out, or in dressage, they'll just lock themselves and they won't be free with their mouths. So that's what he had. It was really prevalent in Singapore. I have no idea why. I would always just recommend it's either wind sucking, cribbing, heavy hands, pulling back, something like that. Stress can do it. I would say more than likely it was probably hands, like being a bit heavy. Arguments with horses will do it. So if you have a horse that really hangs onto the bit and doesn't feel comfortable in the bit, or hangs out in racing, now watch race horses and see if they tilt their heads or veer in or veer out. It's usually got to be the hyoid, or going to be the hyoid. Issues that I can remember, like, you know, I wasn't participating in, like, you know, half a year in Australia, so it's an interesting thing though. So I have a brain that likes patterns. I'm trying to work out why we've got this. But so McGregor is a little bit cheeky. He's been traded by everybody. He's cute though. Benjamin calls him Ewan McGregor. Because he's a little fighter. I think I got that mixed up with Conor McGregor. But anyway, Ewan McGregor, isn't he an actor or a singer?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, anyway, that's what you get for trying to be off the cuff. But so what happened, as I said, is every horse in Singapore. I've got to mention Jim Mason again. Hi, Jim. Gradual Racing. He's going to become my person. He always takes the piss out of me. And he was always going, the Singapore muscle. Anyway, I called it the Singapore muscle because every horse had it. Nowhere near as prevalent here in Australia, but, you know, so again, check hyoid. You think you got pole, check hyoid. Alright, so digital flexor. That's our forearm. It's back here. So deep digital flexor, or any of the flexing muscles in the forearm or their leg, forelimb. I pick it up because it softens this. If I was to leave this standing, they're rock hard. You wouldn't be able to palpate anything or feel anything. So I'm going to pick it up. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to roll my fingers through those. So what they are is I think they're about 3 or 4 muscles that slide along each other. And we just want to make sure. I'm just going to talk to the TikToky people. If you guys have any questions while we're going live, just going over some videos here, and so feel free to ask any questions and we'll try to answer them live as we go. Or Drew will be there. Here. What we're going to do is I'm just going to roll through. I'm literally going to use my fingers. Just pause it here for a sec, Drew, because it's... So all I'm looking at here is the range of motion of the knee. We have a whole bunch of stuff. When you pick up a knee, there can be a bunch of things going on. It can be the digital extensor, which is the one that lifts their foot up, digital flexor, which is the one that pulls the foot down. When I said don't check the digital flexor while they're standing, because the muscle's under load and it is like rock. So always pick it up to check if there's any soreness. And then right now I'm also just going through what the range of motion should be. This fetlock should easily touch the forearm. If you pick up your horse's leg and you push the fetlock to the forearm and it either feels like it's restricted, like it's thick, or it's restricted, or it stops short of touching the forearm, these two touch, then you probably have changes, inflammation or something. I would then see your vet and find out exactly what's going on. It happens in all sorts of horses, especially the older ones, like we all get bony changes or arthritis in the older ones. Now, it's not necessarily a problem, but it's good to know so you can make them more comfortable or make them, like, just help them out. There are definitely joint supplements you can do. There's all sorts of stuff. So we can keep going. And roll out like a guitar string. So that's the digital flexor. I'm going to couple this together with the deep digital, with a digital extensor as well. One of the things that I look for in a horse is when I pick it up, or flexor or extensor, is that this needs to freely be able to touch that. His is a little bit stiff once it gets here. A lot of horses their foot will actually pass out this way. So what happens is, if we can't quite touch here, it means we might have a little bit of a change either in the knee or the actual extensor, which is the muscle that actually picks it up forwards, picks this lower limb up forwards, which is here, is sore. So if that doesn't touch, if your fetlock doesn't touch here, then what we want to do is we want to roll through here, and perhaps even roll through here. You can see that little bit of sensitivity on this knee. If we also have this would be the type of horse that I would ice. I would expect that there are either some changes, there you go, it's already a lot better just from what I did. So, stiffness in this muscle is going to restrict the flexion, it being able to go all the way, so obviously we're kind. So if that doesn't touch that, roll through these and break up the adhesions, roll through these, and then roll through the knee as well. And then hopefully you get a result like that. So the other thing that can happen is these muscles are actually not one big muscle, but they're a bunch that slide on each other. So what can also happen to restrict the leg or the limb is that the fascia or the connective tissue can become dried and grippy, and it can actually stick. So you won't get the muscles sliding freely. So what I do when I treat it is I pretty much just flick through the muscles like guitar strings and just break up those adhesions so they can slide nicely. How are we going, Drew?
Doing great.
People here?
Hi
guys.
No questions so far yet.
No questions.
He's at Telthorpe Racing. It's a beautiful morning.
Telthorpe Racing again. We're back in Geelong.
Have a look at his sacrum. It's kind of abnormal on one side, right?
We're going to hear a bunch of noise. Also, you can't really see this, but there's also a bump just about here on the spine. So if I run my hand over, even though he's got these abnormalities and this bump, if I palpate in there, there's absolutely no sensitivity whatsoever. And you can see how soft he is. So, for those people that talk about Hunter's bump or sacroiliac issues, even though you can see that abnormality, trying to film this myself, there's no sensitivity whatsoever. He's really soft. Just because they're asymmetrical does not mean they're sore. Anyway, cheers, Max, thanks. And there's nothing wrong with that. He's absolutely fine. This one was interesting. So I had a lot of comments on this. A lot of people were wanting to give me their opinion on what that bump was, how you can fix it. I was told that you can fix it chiropractically. I was told that you can fix it homeopathically. I was told that you can fix it all sorts of ways. This is a thickening of the bone. There's obviously a problem there. Something happened. Or, look, it could have even been bored that way, or there could have been something else. There's a thickening of the bone, much like a spur. There could have been trauma, and the body is just trying to build it up. I mean, trying to support it. So the fact that what I was trying to say, even though there's there are probably more than likely changes in there because of a stress of some sort, there was no sensitivity to that. It's like a splint in the leg. Once the splint's gone, I mean, I have splints, like that's a splint, right? That right there is shin splints. I grew up with it. I know what it's like. So it's very painful when it's happening, when it's active. These weren't active, so there was no activity there. Basically, all I was saying is that even if your horse is asymmetrical or has bony changes, I've seen fractured pelvis, etc., once they've healed, if they're healed properly, they shouldn't be a problem. There may be a little bit of a bias, but we should be absolutely fine. That particular horse raced the next day was absolutely fine, no problems whatsoever, no palpable soreness, no restriction in movement, etc. feel free to like absolutely slay me again. I don't mind. But anyway, that was that. So I did mention hunter's bump. I was just trying to show that there was no sacroiliac tenderness. There were no issues there. And I was trying to see, because it was so odd, or it was overbuilt on one side, or the issue was on one side, I just thought it was a good way to be able to film and show that just because you're asymmetrical, just because you've got a problem that's really obvious, even tears, etc., just because you have them doesn't necessarily mean that you have discomfort. Okay, so this is Florida. She's an imported dressage horse. Jackson Stern, who's filming for me right now. Recently imported her. There's a couple of things here that I want to show you, and I'm going to try to fix it. I've only got 2 or 3 minutes, but we'll see how we go. So when I see dips like this, there are 2 things going on here. Like I said, the bump actually, the medial glute actually feeds into the back here. So I know this one's sore, and I also know that this, so it's part of the hamstring group, but it's biceps femoris, that's sore as well. So if you saw through here, this is a bit of a Langeder box area, but check this out. So I'm going to see, hopefully, now this is going to look a little different to how I treat it, but basically I'm feeling for the border of the medial glute, or the border of the bum, and I'm just holding it, I'm just stretching it, using my fingers to stretch it. We could just keep running. Oh, you can keep it, but like, whatever. Anyway, we can do whatever with it. Firstly, Jackson happens to be my son-in-law, so that's kind of interesting that Drew chose this. It's a dressage horse, it's a warm blood. Medial glute, very common in dressage, having a sore medial glute, sore biceps femoris. I treat, because the medial glute is so big, I often treat it differently. I treat it really deep. I treat it with a lot of pressure. I'm trying to break up any fascial adhesions in the rear end. But if you've got a horse, a thoroughbred a racehorse or a dressage horse that is working properly, it's not uncommon to have medial glute soreness. And so basically that's what we're doing. When I talk about the gluteal tongue, if you run your hand along the horse and you get to my Pandora's box, which is sort of like right through here, right between there's probably about 7 different things that it could be. One of those things is, as you drop into what's called the gluteal tongue, which is where the bum attaches into the back, as you drop into that, they dip. Just check the big medial glute area. Like I said, it's a really difficult area to treat, only because there are so many different attachments. So often you're diagnosing by omission rather than diagnosing the actual thing. So you're just checking all the things that they aren't and checking where they're reactive or where they've got a problem. So it's such a complex area that you need to know a lot about a lot of different muscles. So I just said so.
That's all the videos for today.
Is that all the videos? Shit, we went through
We've
that.
done 20 minutes,
quickly.
went quick.
Yeah.
You can let anyone know what you've got coming up in the next week, or you can just say goodbye.
Oh, right. Well, so that kind of went short, didn't it?
20 minutes.
Sorry?
20 minutes.
20 minutes?
Yeah,
that's cool. Anyway, short and sweet, I guess. So like and subscribe here, or it'd be really cool. Share it, like it, subscribe it. Check out my TikToks. This week I've been quite lazy in filming TikToks because I've been so just absolutely smashed. I go over 100 horses a week, and if you're on the clock and you're getting slammed, it's very difficult to hand the camera over to someone and ask them to film. Anyway, hope these are helpful. I hope it gives you a bit of a behind the scenes look at what the videos are. Hopefully it gives you a bit more knowledge, a little bit more education. Any questions in future, we're going to let people know we're going live, which I didn't do this week either. If you have any questions, feel free to slam me with questions. I'm happy to answer them, doing this all in the name of education, because it's cool to know shit about your horse. So, thanks everyone, thanks for watching. Hopefully we get better at this anyway. Thanks Drew.